Upon reflection, I have decided to delete all of the scrolling apps off of my phone. My screen time was a bit out of control and it was making me feel out of control. And I realized how much time I've been freely giving away to the TikTok algorithm, seemingly without my own consent because I was never really an agent. It's only been a few days, but I feel so much better and I have so much more time. Like actually all of a sudden I have like an extra day every day, which is so insane. But I made a little pile of hopefuls, not a TBR. I don't do TBRs because I don't take orders, not even for myself. This is like a list of hopefuls, books that I've been putting off for a long time, some books that have challenged me either by length or difficulty. And now I have so much free time, I'm like, I could actually just like dedicate myself to reading these difficult books. Not all of them are difficult. Some of them are just books I've been putting off for way too long. Starting strong with House of Leaves by Mark C. Danielewski. This book has been on my shelf for about almost 10 years now. I've been intrigued by the story for so long. This is a cult classic, story within a story within a story. Super interesting, cursed vibes. I don't usually read like horror style stuff, but the concept of this book is just too good to pass up. It's basically about a house that's bigger on the inside than on the outside. It's about a family who moves into the house and realizes slowly, with a kind of horror that I'm sure you can imagine, that their house is growing. I get the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. They go away for a weekend, they come back, there's a whole new room between the parents' bedroom and the children's bedroom. Absolutely hooky spooky. This book is also super interestingly formatted. Like it's one of those books you can't get on ebook because it's so physical. This is a huge challenge for me. The day that I finish House of Leaves will be one of the best days of my life, I'm sure. It's a commitment. It's a big book and it also includes a bunch of footnotes from like the outer shell of the story that sometimes can feel a bit pointless and maybe you don't want to read them, but you should read them because you got to get the whole scope of things. Also because I'm pretty sure I would love this. Like I think this would make it to my favorites. I just have to do the work and experience it all. Next is Dune by Frank Herbert. I watched the movies last month and they were so good. They were so surprisingly complex. I heard a lot of people say they were boring. I guess those people don't like a good deal of political intrigue in their novels. Me, I love it. I'm just curious about stuff that the movies weren't really able to portray, specifically about the Bene Gesserit. So yes, I really do want to read this. If you have big book phobia like I do, I think the only way out is through. Like you just have to read big books and prove to yourself a couple of times over and over again that you're capable of doing it. Last month, I read The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is like a little short story, like hypothetical, like philosophical thought experiment about utopia. It was so good that I'm just completely obsessed with Le Guin. A couple days ago, I went to the bookstore, I picked these two up. This is The Dispossessed. I don't actually know what this is about. I just know it won her like the Hugo Award, which I believe she's won twice, actually. This includes Rokanan's World, Planet of Exile, and City of Illusions. The cover is what got me, to be honest. Oh, these are the first 3 Hainish novels. I hadn't put that, like, together. Le Guin, I am coming for you. Very quickly. Next is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I have read Beach Read. That's the only Emily Henry book I've read, but I'm so increasingly intrigued, especially with the new release of Funny Story, of people's ratings. Like the Emily Henry fans have very specific feelings about the ranking of her books, and it's all deeply personal. Like it all has to do with like what kind of person you are and what you relate to. Everyone seems to agree that the books are great, but everyone has very specific preferences. I love seeing people's rankings, and I want my own ranking. I really want to make my way through her backlist and make a video about it and tell you my ranking. It just seems like a fun little project. Next is Plain Water by Anne Carson. Anne Carson is one of my favorite writers, but I haven't read Plain Water, which is crazy. I have tried to read it before, but it was so challenging. I just need to give it time and attention so that I can actually enjoy it. This is a collection of essays and poetry, by the way. Next is Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. I loved Annihilation, but I've never finished the trilogy. I never even continued. The reason I've been so hesitant is that Authority doesn't take place, as far as I know, in Area X. It's more from the government perspective. That intrigues me much less, I'm not gonna lie to you, so that's kind of why I've been hesitant. But I have to read this to get to the 3rd book. And regardless, I think I really like Vandermeer's writing, so I think I'll enjoy it regardless. We'll see. Next is St. Augustine's Confessions. I read this in, not all of it, I read a bit of it in university and was so intrigued, was so obsessed, it was so good. But then I had to write my thesis and I didn't have time to read anything more than the tomb that is the Aeneads by Plotinus. That was what my thesis was about. So I literally didn't read anything for months other than that. This is such a bizarre piece of literature because it's kind of a journal, diary type vibe. Like St. Augustine is directly confessing all his sins before he converted to Christianity. Like he's just talking a lot and being very skeptical about Christian doctrine. and all this stuff he had issues with his whole life, that he could never like bring himself to believe in God. And then eventually he had some kind of like moment that he talks about in this book. I'm really curious. I want to read it. How he's going to explain the moment of conversion for him. Just such a bizarre piece of work that is so interesting. One of my philosophy professors in uni really, really loves this book in a philosophical way, and I would like to encounter it. So, confessions. Lastly is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I've never read this. Everybody and their mother has read this. Everybody and their mother and their dog has read this. That's kind of the reason I haven't read this. When things get a bit too overhyped, I just get an ick. I can't explain it. It's not rational. I just all of a sudden don't want to know. Bizarre, I know. I don't think I've ever read a dark academia book, actually. And this is like the mother of all dark academia. It like invented the genre, which is so cool. And it's written by a woman, you know. I know I'm gonna love it. I just don't know why I haven't read it yet. I just gotta get to it. It's so funny because I'm actually currently in the middle of like 4 books and none of them are these books. So I can't really explain the role that this pile functions as because it's not an immediate TBR. It's just like a conceptual, hypothetical list of books I want to read instead of scrolling on TikTok.